Hi, welcome to Concepts of Web Performance. Today we're going to be talking about DOM content loaded event. It's an important JavaScript event that also has web performance implications. I'm Todd Gardner from Request Metrics. Let's get started. So the DOM content loaded event. You've probably attached events to this before because it's super useful for doing things at the start of a web page. But what exactly does it mean? Well, when DOM content loaded fires, it means that the HTML, the outer, markup of the document, has fully downloaded and all the non-async scripts have executed at this point. However, styles, images, frames, and other resources might not be finished yet. Honestly, probably aren't finished yet in a lot of cases. Now, this is part of the loading sequence of metrics that starts with time to first byte, then document content loaded, and finally the page load event. And these are technical measures of the loading sequence of a web page, important for performance. If you want to check out the other ones, there's other videos here linked about them. So in a waterfall chart, where does this happen? Well, the initial request is made, and the HTML document has fully downloaded. During that time to first byte fired. And then sometime after that, there's a little bit of time here necessary for processing. DOM content loaded will fire, meaning that we've discovered every single resource on the page. We know that what's there, but they might not necessarily be finished yet. Now notice in this particular waterfall chart, there is no JavaScript. No JavaScript is involved here because JavaScript is an important influencing factor of DOM content loaded. And most websites are going to have some JavaScript. So how does this change if there's JavaScript on the page? Well, so here's another example where there's some deferred JavaScript on the page. Now, DOM content loaded by definition will wait for all the JavaScript to fully execute and run. That includes both blocking scripts and anything tagged with a defer attribute. So the JavaScript will not only be discovered, but will have executed before DOM content loaded fires. Now that changes the behavior kind of quite a bit because JavaScript, especially deferred JavaScript, is going to try and wait for all the style sheets to be done before it executes because the style sheets can change how things are running. And so if you're running deferred at JavaScript, DCL kind of changes its definition a little bit and it becomes bound to not run until after all the style sheets are done. In this way, it's kind of advantageous to have at least one deferred JavaScript thing on your page just so you have more control over when this event happens. If you want to learn more about all the details of JavaScript and loading it and how it can influence page load, check out my other video all about loading JavaScript and what those different loading attributes mean. So in a film strip example of these events, DOM content loaded is going to fire when the user does see something, probably. There will be some initial things that have rendered on the page. It might be a header, it might be just a little bit of text, whatever. But chances are the user sees something at DOM content loaded. Now, this very much depends on what JavaScript framework what your architecture is. If you're using heavy client-side rendering, the user could still be staring at a white screen here. There's no guarantee about it, but it does occur at some point during that loading process. When do you use DOM content loaded? Well, it means that the critical structure of the page is done. So all of the HTML body, all the elements are queryable. You can see what elements exist on the page, but images and async content might not be displayed yet. Now, if you've used a deferred JavaScript tag, styles are probably there, but other things aren't. How do you listen to this? Well, this is just a plain old JavaScript event. So we just attach window add event listener to DOM content loaded, and we get a timestamp based on when it happened. Now, should you use this? Should you use this for web performance? Because some places don't. Now, I personally think it's still important. I think it's maybe important for understanding a holistic picture of your website. But it is a subjective measure of a technical milestone in loading your website. So what can you use it for? Well, you can use it to measure the timing of the complete parsing of your document. So if you are sending a really complicated bit of HTML, like a lot of nested elements, 10,000, 20,000 elements, it can give you a really good idea of how long that's taking real-world browsers to understand that. And you can compare the performance of doing that across browsers that might not support other metrics. So if you're supporting some older browsers or browsers that haven't implemented all of the newer web performance metrics, you can use this DOM content loaded and compare it between Chrome and Safari and Firefox and Opera and whatever else you care about to see, hey, is Safari as fast at parsing the document as Chrome? And then make some assumptions based on the other metrics from there. But you can't use this to compare different websites. If you support website A and website B, you can't say that one of them is faster than the other based on their DOM content loaded, because the technology stacks can be so totally different that just because one is faster than the other doesn't mean the user thinks it was faster. And you can't assume any user experience based on this metric. The user could see part of the website, all of the website, or none of the website when DOM content load goes off. You really don't know. So that's not what it is useful for. If you want to learn more about the DOM content loaded and other web performance events, check out my course on Front-End Masters, The Fundamentals of Web Performance. We talk about all kinds of metrics, how to improve the performance of your website, and building a culture around web performance. Or if you want to improve the performance of your website, check out Request Metrics, the unified web performance monitoring tool. It combines lab testing, real user monitoring, and Google's data to give you a more comprehensive view of what's actually slowing down your website and how to make it faster. This was DOM content loaded from Concepts of Web Performance. I hope you learned something. If you did, please drop me a like. I'd appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.